So let's take a look at a quick case study that a customer of ours that I worked with for the past many years. They're a global leader in the lifestyle footwear, and they have retained us to help them improve the controls across the enterprise. We recently finished some work for them here in the U.S. In the West Coast, and they also came to one of our events in San Francisco, and we're very, you know, able to verify some of the results that they've produced. So basically, in a nutshell, what the company does is develops shoes, high performance shoes and footwear. It operates in 4 segments. They have domestic wholesale, international wholesale, retail, and e-commerce, which is very traditional today, or very typical today, I should say, for any retailer, right? You got to be an omni-channel company. Most of our retail organizations are like that. I picked this example because they are challenged, as most retailers are in this market, with competing with the organizations with highly digitalized platforms like Amazon. Company also operates concept stores, 122, and factory outlets, and so they have variations. And as you might imagine, the pricing and supply chain is impacted by that. So here are some of the use cases that we arrived at as part of the implementation of SafeInsight. So we picked out some of the pain points by talking to executive management and looking at some of their historical data that we had access to. So accounts payable audits, they were using third-party audit firms to do recovery audits. The supply chain is very complex, as you might imagine. Any retailer that is operating at scale today has a global supply chain. Manufacturing, in this case, also part of this organization. So while they're in retail, they also manufacture in China. So there's all kinds of subcontractor challenges, contract challenges in general, and so they wanted us to kind of look at that data and improve the relationships with their suppliers, as well as improve the ability to recover when there was dispute more accurately and timely. Second was around merchandising audits, so being able to look at pricing models, items that were in warehouses versus retail, how are they moving, and how was the impact of their promotions, media audits. It was also part of this. Freight audits. Freight's a big deal. That's any global businesses today. Freight is a much bigger factor on the financial statement than it was even 10 years ago. And then finally, compliance with their contracts with their suppliers. So those were some of the challenges the company was facing, where we created a summary of use cases. So again, it's the approach I mentioned earlier. You may have a roadmap already in place. Just let us know where we fit into that roadmap. If you want us to build one, we can help you based on best practices. So that's kind of unique to us. We're more than just a product company. We come from a consulting and professional services background. So at the end of the day, you were able to put this type of a solution together. And this is basically a sample, because I can't use actual data. So I pulled the samples together. So you can look at AP claims that are open. What's the ratio of claims by certain regions? You can see that Middle East Africa has the highest number of claims at 1.33% of their total claims. So now you can go and make control improvements in that region. Very useful information for the head of audit and finance organization, and the trends in the claim. So while we see that in Q2 they peaked in MEA, Middle East Africa region, but they have come down, and the trend is looking really good because they have implemented SafePaaS Insight, and now they're able to predict risk and bring it down to a lower level. So that was the kind of a dashboard, or the final benefit of using SafePaaS. And merchandising. So now we can see how pricing is impacting our merchandise losses. So you can see where the losses are coming from on our merchandise by region in the US. You can drill down, in this case, down to the US. So we have divided US into, let's see, 6 markets. And within 6 markets, looks like South Central is pricing errors were really high in certain periods, and that's what caused our merchandise losses. So we priced the product wrong. Maybe it was the weather. Weather is a big deal for these guys and for retailers in general. So it's too hot, people are not buying sweaters and coats, and if it's too warm, too cold, they're not buying swimsuits, right? So that's really helpful to kind of look at how your merchandising strategy using the raw data you have available in your POS systems, your warehouse systems, again, multiple data sources, and being able to then come up with the best possible net price. So you're predicting, one of the examples, use case I mentioned was pricing. So you can predict what pricing will work in which market the best, and you can get to a micro pricing model around regions and seasons and so forth. So excellent way to improve inventory management and pricing, which is where your margin is and which is where your net profit comes from. And then compliance, being able to look at which of the suppliers are compliant to all the companies and scoring that instead of just looking at hundreds of attributes like shipments on time and so forth, making sure they have workman comp and contracts and pricing. You can start using credit scores from third-party agencies. You can apply compliance to your contracts, quality rates, whatever those factors are. You can start looking at vendor risk and supplier risk. You can look at freight costs over time. So again, this is one example of a customer, but there's many others that may be specific to your market that we can do similar type of analysis. So you can see the freight cost ratios here from different suppliers. And then sales by market. So this is coming from your CRM system. Also your payable system may contain media versus agencies. So you have spend through third-party agencies like this organization promotes through channels that teenagers watch for the young audience. So you have promotional sites through TV advertisements, certainly online advertising through Google and other sites, and then media companies that buy the ads for them. So you can look at agency buys versus direct buys. And in this case, you can see that around the Christmas time, the media spend went up, which is pretty typical. And then as a result of that, agency view was consistent with that. So you can see that some purchases are coming from agencies, but it's tracking pretty closely too. So if you saw a change in that, for example, agency spiked but media dropped, you might be concerned about it. Like in this case, you can see the agency's fees high, but media spend is low. So this would be maybe a point that you would want to see. Why are they not moving in the same direction? So, very helpful information. Again, this is coming from 5 or 10 different systems. You've got the merchandising system in one place. You've got POS. You've got data warehouse. You've got a warehouse system. You've got ERP system also. So you can use Data Probe, the tool we have, and scan and discover data across hundreds of systems. Many of those, like I said, the ERPs are already scoped in out of the box. And then you can, really look at where data can help you improve your business and compete better, generate better margins, and ultimately give your people a break too, so they can go home and home on time instead of sitting till midnight, burning the midnight oil, trying to get your spreadsheets right. So that's a couple of more examples, and I'm going to wrap up. So what it looks like under the covers is basically we can find duplicate invoices, for example. Prevent risk. This is just sample data, as I said before. You can find unusual changes to supplier accounts, and you can therefore use that data to predict the risk of actually materializing that event. The way it works is, I won't get into too much of a setup, but just so you know that there is product behind all this. This is the data source, as I mentioned before. This is where your data discovery comes in. So you can go in and set up your data sources. It takes a few minutes to set up. Your DBA can do that, or whoever understands that database or data source can set that up. And then once that is authorized, you'll be able to start discovering the data, connecting it through objects like these. So this is the objects, for example. I'm a finance guy, so from my perspective, it's more GL type data or purchasing supplier data. So this has now been pulled in, and modified and set up. So now you don't have to worry about all those scripting and extraction, and all that will be automated. And then once the automated scheduler is running, you can get reports of snapshot of that data through the metadata that we talked about earlier. And from there, you can assign alerts and workflows to key people in the organizations. This is how you make analytics work for your organization, taking that raw data, the big data, turning into useful analytics, and then sharing it with people that have been authorized to take decisions on behalf of the company, like your finance organization on journal entries, your procurement organization on suppliers, your customer organization on credits, et cetera, et cetera. Many examples we can go through. And ultimately, it's all automated through workflows where you have a complete audit trail. So your auditors are happy too, because they can see all this information and see how the company's operating the controls in real world. And many times our customers use this for SOX as well. So you can apply that to your SOX and lower the burden of SOX management. So your full incident reports, who approved what risk, and where it is in the bucket. So essentially, what we're telling you to move from a standard today's standard-based controls, which is controls that may be embedded into your processes, to a more advanced SafePaaS-enabled approach that is based on fuzzy logic and predictive analytics, which will help you ultimately get your vision for 2020 and help you get to your goals faster and more successfully. So that's basically the end of the presentation. Emma, I think I've used up